At 4.5 years old, Susan Grau had a near-death experience, also known as an NDE. She felt herself cross over into the spirit world, and what she was shown transformed her life going forward. Susan is now an internationally recognized intuitive medium and inspirational speaker who has also completed her doctorate of divinity with the renowned Dr. Raymond Moody, the founder of the studies in near-death experiences. She is also a certified professional with a background in counseling who offers services in mediumship, life coaching, and as an intuitive, clairvoyant, certified hypnotherapist, Reiki master, spiritual coach, and teacher of the metaphysical arts, along with other healing modalities. As you can tell, Susan is a healer and has been a healer her entire life. She believes she's always possessed these extraordinary gifts, but her first memory began when she was that small child. In her new book, Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons, Wisdom from the Spirit World on Living, Dying, and the In-Between, Susan offers profound insights into your soul's journey, the process of healing from grief, and the mysteries of the afterlife. Whether you're grappling with the loss of a loved one, seeking answers to life's mysteries, interested in near-death experiences, or looking to deepen your spiritual awareness, Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons provides the clarity, wisdom, and solace needed for your journey. It is an insightful guide into the often misunderstood realm of the spirit world. You will gain a deeper understanding of the afterlife and tools for connecting with angels, spirit guides, and souls on the other side. Throughout this book, Susan shares her deeply personal struggles, near-death experience, and stories of the thousands she's helped as an evidential medium. We'll be talking all about it and how you can better navigate your own journey in this lifetime and ultimately understand that you are enough. You are loved and you are not alone. Let's get going. Hi, Susan.
Susan,
Hi.
welcome. Robin and I are so excited about your book. We've both been talking about it leading up to today and the genuineness that you tell your stories.
And speaking of that, your story in itself is remarkable. You have walked the seeker's walk already and continue to. Can you start by talking about that near-death experience as a child?
Of course. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. I appreciate it.
There's so much to say.
I was 4.5 years old, tipping on 5, and I was playing fort with some boys, and they told me that if I got up in the freezer in the garage and got popsicles, that they would let me play fort longer. And of course, being that age, I wanted to play fort. That was the big thing, especially in our big grove that we had. And so I climbed up in the freezer. Unbeknownst to me, it was not plugged in. And I was a little young to understand there weren't going to be popsicles up there because I remembered it being plugged in the not too distant past. So up in it I went, started calling out different, what flavors do you want? What kind of yum do you want? And I got up inside facing inward, trying to reach up to the top and where I thought the popsicles might be because I didn't see them. And I heard the freezer door close and it pinned me between the door and the inserts, the shelves. And I thought I was in on a game. I honestly thought it was a game and I thought I was part of the game and everything was okay. And then I heard the thud of the garage door and I realized this was not a game. And I immediately, innately knew. I don't know how at that age, but I knew I was in dire danger. I knew I was trapped. I felt like an animal in a cage. I was terrified and I started screaming. My mother heard the screaming. We had a lot of land. And just to be real, the sound of cats in heat is a very high-pitched sound. And that's the sound of terror. It's the highest pitch you can imagine. And it is just utter, it's nothing we do normally or naturally. And she heard that and she ignored it. She thought it was the kittens or the cats. My next thing I remember was seeing three lights, three beautiful bright lights, and the freezer lit up. It was that bright. And that was part of the fear was the dark. So it silenced for one heartbeat. But then I went back to screaming at the top of my lungs and I heard stop screaming. And I was a kid. So I thought, I'm not going to stop screaming. I screamed louder and higher. And then I heard this very powerful voice say to me, stop screaming. We're going to get your mommy. And it got that but first feeling, but I didn't say it, but first. And there I was at the bottom of this stairway. And I looked up and I'm going to describe it as an adult woman because otherwise you wouldn't understand a child sees things metaphorically and very differently, but it all has the same meaning. I saw a Greco-Roman room and it had pillars and they were broken. And in the top, there was this open ceiling and it was just open to eternity. And I knew somehow that at the bottom at these stairs, that if I got to the top inside, there would be a hole, or what I call a well. And I didn't know why I felt compelled, but I wanted to be there. And the minute I thought it, I was at the edge of this well inside this room. And I had no fear, which is so strange because falling in a well would be very frightening. Later on in life, I said to Dr. Moody, Raymond, why didn't I see the tunnel? Why does everybody else get to see a tunnel and I didn't get to see a tunnel? And he said, maybe your tunnel's the well. And he said, we've heard it called many different things, Susan. A very kind, decent man, truly amazing man. He was my bucket list. I was looking down inside this well and I saw words and what I considered to be prayers, which I understood what prayers were. And I was hearing things like, my mom has cancer, God, please heal her, or don't let her die. It was one consciousness. So it was coming at the same time. It's the only way I can explain it. And it was spinning together like DNA looking back. And I heard a kid say, I'm going to turn 16 and I want a car and my dad won't give me a car. God convinced him to give me a car, and just all these different things. That my mommy and daddy are going to divorce. Please don't let that happen. Of course, I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it was one consciousness. And I looked over at the angels, the lights, what I call my angels. And I said, do you answer all those? And they said, no, Susie, sometimes what people desire the most isn't good for them. And I didn't like hearing that. That was something my mom would say to me. And I wasn't really sure why they were saying it. And I thought, where's my mommy here? And I saw some other things in that room that were quite profound. And then I looked in front of me and I saw this beautiful road. I called it the Yellow Brick Road because it was golden. And I had seen The Wizard of Oz. And just to preface it, this later on in life, I was in my late 40s. I was in church. We wanted our children to learn everything. And I heard this preacher say, and the paths were paved in gold. I'm going to tell you, he was reading this from a Bible. I almost fell off because I had never read the Bible. I almost fell off my seat. I was overwhelmed with what? I looked at my husband like, what? Did you know this? And he said, yeah, I guess he thought I did. But anyway, going back, I saw these humans, what I would say humans, spirits, pulling from the bottom of this pyramid. And they were pulling these pavers and they were beginning to pave their path, and it was bumpy and crooked and out of sync. And I innately knew that this pyramid was the life journey. And what happens when you pull from the bottom of a pyramid, you unbalance it. And it was very clear to me, my little soul. And again, metaphorically, I didn't even know it was metaphorical at the time. I can tell you that now. To me, it was just all real and very succinct. And I saw them praying, please come help me, for the love of God, do something. And I watched these beautiful angels come in and start removing the pavers off the path and putting them back to the bottom of the pyramid, knowing they were rebalancing their life journey. And they went to the top of the pyramid. And as they would pull from these pavers, I watched them recreate themselves as though you have other choices. And looking back, I understand that now, but I didn't then. It was just like, oh, there they are again. And I watched them start paving the path. And I asked, what are you doing? And they said, we are the pavers, you are not. All you have to do is walk it. And I said, how do you know if you're walking it right? And they said, and I know they put these questions in my head. I want to say that because I don't think I guess a child could ask that. I was pretty precocious, but I still think they did. And they said, we bless and block everything, and make no mistake. You can get through a block battered and bruised at best, or you can shift. And if you see another block or wall, shift again. And if you see another one, shift again. And before you know it, you'll see us paving your path. We know what's best for you. You think you know what's best for you.
Wow.
Which is very powerful.
Yes.
And I didn't understand the power of that, of course, but I do now, and I have for a long time. And I didn't listen, by the way. Just want to say that. I did my own journey and it was quite crooked. And they said, what you try to control controls you, and what you run from chases you. And we want you to always remember. And I never forgot that, although I tried to control everything in my life, and what I didn't like, I ran from. I did everything the opposite of what they said because I was having a human experience. And I needed to do it that way. That was my journey and my lessons. But I never forgot what they said. So later on in life, when I tried to control everything in my life, I infinitely remembered everything they said. And that was one of the things I remembered. And I finally let go of control. Completely, never. Mostly, yes.
It's like that was your message from them. That was part of why that experience happened, right? So that they could plant that seed. So when those experiences came in your life, you would have that in the back of your mind.
Yes. And it was just such a powerful thing to hear because even as a little child, I was trying to control everything around me. I was being abused. So I was trying to control that and watch out where I am and not go to certain places and then go there because I wanted to be loved. And that was the way I saw love. And so I was always controlling and running and controlling and running. So it made so much sense to me already, but just not to the point of taking action on it. So there were more things that they said to me in that space, that beautiful space. And then I flashed into another room called the Room of Knowledge, very powerful. And I saw what I would call families making, and I saw there was no virtual then. So I don't want to use that word, but I have to. It was as though things were flying at them very gently, ever so slightly, coming at them. They seemed like tablets. And somebody asked me on a podcast, do you think that was like the tablets from the Ten Commandments, the same look? And I thought, oh, how interesting, because I never thought of it that way, but maybe, but they were tablets or books of tablets, and they were coming at them. And I knew their previous life journeys and then choices. And they were filling out these tablets, so to speak, in their minds. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I heard the angels and guides say, oh, no, sweetie, that's a little much. We don't want you to do all that in one lifetime. You have many choices you can make and you have free will there and blah, blah, blah. And I was just overwhelmed by what they were saying because I thought, I don't want to do all that's a lot to take on. And they would say, I can do it. I know I can do it. I can handle it. And that's what I call the PhD in hardship on this journey. I can do it. I know I can. And they paused and they said, you have free will. And then they were gone. And then another group would be there. And this was going on in all different areas. So I was seeing groups, not just one group, but the one group I was watching and listening to. I always wonder if it happened to be mine.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. And I never said that in my book, but I always have thought that. I wonder if that was mine. They were showing me my choices, what I had decided on with my family, because there were so many different groups that they were at a distance. And then another one would come forward. And I asked, where did they go? And they said they went to their next incarnation. Now you have to understand, I didn't know what that meant. And I went, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, what 5-year-old is going to know that, right?
Right.
The fact that you still remember so vividly that which you had no understanding of, I think, tells us how truthful this experience actually was for you.
But I think what made me remember so much more vividly was when I got back here and I was older and someone said to me, do you believe in reincarnation? My whole body went wham.
Wow.
I went, what? I've never heard this word. I was blown away because then it all came to light. It all flashed in front of me again. And I had remembered incarnations. So that was like,
Wow.
what a wake up aha moment for me. And this happened throughout my life. It wasn't that I remembered it so clearly and perfectly. It's just that all the aha moments made it make sense. So then bam, the memory is even stronger. And so my next feeling was this feeling of moving. I say popped into because I was a child, but moving into another room. And that room was the room of companions. And I felt this amazing, beautiful feeling. And I had never lost an animal that I saw there, like a dog, cat, horse, things like that. I did lose a rat when I was little, but I didn't see any rats. I just have to be honest. That doesn't mean they're not there. It was my pet rat. It was white, and my dad was a laboratory man. So obviously I would walk them on a leash and I didn't see them. But I did see a lot of beautiful creatures and animals. And they would go from this room, what I called a room, but it was really a field. And it was covered in daisies and those dandelions that you blow on and make wishes. I saw those. And I saw these creatures down to, honestly, bears and just creatures sitting in these fields. And they were all getting along and they were all happy. And I couldn't see my physical body, but I can tell you, I knew I was little and I knew I was sitting. So it was just a knowing. And I saw this beautiful dog, what I now know was a wolf. I'm extremely attached to them. I actually have been in the presence of them physically one-on-one. They jumped up and looked at me and then sat down and put their ears back and allowed me to touch them. It was amazing. I didn't want to leave this beautiful giant dog wolf, whatever people want to call it. It sounds so woo-woo when I say wolf. I'm almost embarrassed, but it was a wolf. And I was sitting there and I looked to my left and I saw my probably will cry and I'll have to grab a Kleenex. Sitting on this ground, I looked up and I saw on this mountain this beautiful being, and it was all love. And all I wanted to do was climb up that mountain and get up there. But of course, I knew I couldn't. And it was light. Now, people ask me about the light there, and they say, do angels have wings? I want to explain that really briefly before I continue. Is when an angel opens to you, it is pure light. So if you think about pure light and how it sends rays, what does it look like? So do I know if they have wings? I don't. Does it look like they do? Yes, because it's just this light that pours out of every minuscule part of them. So this being, I wanted to get up there so badly. I wanted to feel that love. And it started coming towards me like a beam of wonder, pure love. And I remember feeling this feeling of perfect. I'm perfect in every way. Like I was enough. I was lovable. I was worthy. I was capable. I was everything you don't feel here. Mm-hmm. And it shrouded me with love. There was not a single feeling of being anything but perfect. I was everything, but I was nothing. I was that pure. And I don't know how else to explain it, to be everything and be nothing. And then something was said to me very powerful, very personal about who I was that I'll never forget as long as I exist. Not as long as I live, as long as I exist, which will be forever.
Yeah.
And then I looked to my right, and there was this beautiful angel. Like she was floating, and she came out of this beautiful cottage. And I saw her coming towards me, and all I could think of was, I want to float. I probably was floating.
Right.
All I could think of is, I want to float. Can I float? It was just so awe-inspiring to see something floating. And it was the first thing I saw floating besides the love. And I felt like the animals were romping and playing and they had legs. So this was the first thing that I actually saw floating. And she said to me, it's time to go. And of course, there's all this stuff in between this, but it would be hours. And then the next thing I knew, I was by a river. And she was telling me about my life. And she said, you're going to have some hardships, but you will have free will to decide how you're going to deal with those hardships. Hence the free will involved in our planned journey. And I want to say that it's very clear to me what that means. We have doors we can open, and what door we choose decides what we learn with our journey. However, the journey will be there because that's the planned event.
Yes.
So she told me that I was going to have some very big difficulties, and I didn't like that. And I didn't think I wanted to come back. But then she told me I was going to see my mommy. So I thought, I'm going to go back.
Would you say this being was an angel or was a spirit guide? Angel?
It was an angel.
Yeah.
It was definitely an angel. And the light coming off of her was unbelievable.
Wow.
This expanse. There's no word.
Just from your own emotion, that frequency of that energy is still with you on a cellular level.
Absolutely.
She feels like your guardian angel to me.
Yeah, that's
really,
I love that.
Yeah, and really telling you, reminding you why you were going back.
Yes. My guardian angel's name's Alana, so I think that's very possible. And she said, we all go through water and we all go through cleansing. And I was like, why do you need to cleanse them? Like, I'm in this really great place, but I guess I'm dirty. I've been sitting in the field. My mom won't like me dirty. I had all these thoughts going through my head, but I understand now what she means is that we come into this world pure. It's a pureness, but the world taints us because it's meant to. But we start out pure and we leave pure, which was amazing. And then I also later on in life recognized that I came in a womb filled with amniotic fluid, which is like water. So that made total sense. Then later on, I was looking at the English translation for the French word. I want to say that because a French woman was very upset with me because I said this without saying the English translation of the French word, clair, which is clairvoyance. That clair is a very powerful thing in our field. It means clear. It also means water.
Oh.
In the English translation. I blew my mind. Look at, see, I did the same thing. I
did not know that.
The French word for water is it's very different.
Or something like that.
It's very different.
Yes, but in the English translation, it literally says clear and then in quotations, water, clear like water. So that's the English to help you understand what clear is. Anyway, this whole time, my mother was hearing your baby's in the freezer, your baby's in the freezer. And
She's
she
hearing
ignored
this
it.
telepathically. She's hearing
And I
that.
could see my mom, by the way.
Oh,
Really?
Yes, I think it was my first real understanding of how to connect.
Wow. You were remote viewing without
Yeah.
knowing you were
Yeah.
remote viewing.
Yeah. I was seeing her and I was talking to her and I could tell she was moving around when I was talking to her, but I thought she was hearing me, but I don't know for sure. She never told me that. So she said the third time she heard it, she decided she better do something. And this was a long time later. She couldn't tell me how long, but she knew
Yeah, I was going to say, how
it
long
was
were you
quite a
in
while.
that freezer?
They say anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours. I'm sure it's somewhere in between.
Oh,
I had
Yeah.
the chills.
fun.
And they only know that because the boys went out to play, then they went home.
So the boys never said anything at all?
No,
Wow.
no. My mom came out. Now, I don't know this exact next step. I have to say she had a thought because I remember her telling me this, but she's not here for me to verify that I couldn't open that garage door. It would be too heavy for a little girl. So she thought, I'm just going to turn around. And then she decided against it. Something in her gut told her to open it up. So she opened the garage door. She went to the freezer. It was supposed to be bolted and turned around towards the wall, which it was not. We weren't allowed to play in there. There was a boat in there. Nobody parked their cars in there. And she said she opened up the freezer door and I was facing inward. She turned me around and I was ashen with blue fingertips.
Wow.
And she said she panicked. There were no cell phones. There were no garage doors. She's dropped me to run to get a phone in her panic. I fell and hit my chin. I still have my little scar.
Wow.
And I hit it hard enough on the cement to crack it open. And I took a breath.
Wow. Wow.
And here I am. When I felt better and woke up from all of that, I could see spirits everywhere. Now, prior to that, again, I remember seeing animals float when they would die. And we had creatures on our land. So I had the ability to see those things happen in the wildlife. And I would see them float.
And that
I
was
didn't think
normal for you,
anything.
right? That was
Yeah,
probably, yeah.
I didn't think anything.
So following this experience then, Susan, when you say you saw spirit, what does that mean?
Well, I saw people. I thought they were people looking in my window, under my bed, saying hello, the corner of the room. I heard hello, but the rest was all mumbling. These people were looking at me and they were looking again through the windows, under the bed, in the corner of the room, down the hallway. I would literally stand and cry for my mom to come get me. And even though they didn't hurt me, I thought they were the boogeymen, not boogeyman, boogeymen and women. And I would cover my head and say, go away. And I would beg for them to go away. And I know they backed away, but they didn't go away. And this kept happening for a long time. Then it started to be, wake up, I just died. My name is blah, blah, blah. And you're going to hear so-and-so sister's brother's best friend died. And I'm that person. And they think I killed myself or they think I did it and I did not. And you need to tell them it was an accident. And I would be okay. But I never wrote it down because I was still young. Or I'd be playing with friends and I'd say, your grandma wants to play. And they'd go, you're so mean. And I got punched for it and told I was really mean. And her grandma just died. And how could I be so mean? But she wanted to play with us.
Yeah.
And my mom would tell me, don't talk about it. My mom was locked up because she saw things.
Yeah.
And she had a nervous breakdown.
Wow. I know in your book, you are able to share that with your sister. But other
Yes.
than that, you really had to keep it quiet.
Yeah, my sister had the gift. My brother had the gift, but my brother became schizophrenic, so they say. So they medicated him. He didn't talk about those things, and those things weren't real. Fortunately, that's changing, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I used to play with them, though, in what my family called the creepy room. And I used to play like the Beatles and we'd rock out and have all this fun. When I'd be married to Paul and they'd be married to Ringo or vice versa, and we'd have kids together. And then I'd realize they weren't there.
Oh my God.
And I would pretend my dad, as if they didn't know this, I'd pretend my dad was in the shower and I'd go, I know you're an expert in judo, karate, and aikido, daddy, which he was. And I know you're in the shower. And that would make them realize, oh, she's scared, because they knew he wasn't in the shower. They know what's going on. And they'd move away. And then as soon as I'd calm down and start playing again, they'd play again with me. And so that's why my family called it the creepy room, because I was talking to things that weren't there. My sister doesn't have the same. She's the one that's still here. So I do want to preface it that with, my sister does not have the same exact gift of mediumship, but she is definitely what I would call a medical intuitive.
Wow.
And she doesn't do it for a living, but she used to. And she's a healer. She helps people heal everywhere she goes. So, that's the power of my sister. So my brother, of course, died by suicide. And that's been both of my brothers and my mother. And that's been a long journey for me and my sister.
Yeah.
So we became better people for it.
Well, and you
know?
talk about that you survived so much trauma and grief, and that through those experiences, they opened you up. Obviously, you already had this connection and that experience, but for others, that trauma and grief can lead you on this path of trying to understand more.
Just to
I
add,
say,
Susan, too, people who are listening, I think many of us understand why you would want to shut that down pretty radically and not look at it. What got you to that place where you were finally able to open up to the fact that, yes, I am a medium, and own that and try to get over that judgment that may or may not have come as a result of you being out there telling your story.
So I don't think I had an option. I don't think I did anything special. I think I was a medium and I couldn't not be. So I became a grief and addiction counselor. I'm a grief specialist. And that opened the door for me to say, oh, this happened. And they go, I didn't tell you that. And I go, I'm sure you did. When I'd start backing away, just in stress. And I didn't want to be locked up or had my license taken away. But then people would say, I'm sending my mom to you. You can't know this. My mom needs to hear this. And then it would just travel from there. So it came naturally, but I didn't talk about it. I got married and I would have a visitation and I was wide awake always. Very rarely now, later on in life, they have to wake me because I know they're coming. So I'm not wide awake. I go to sleep anyway. But when I was young, I was wide awake and my husband would be sleeping next to me and I'd have this visit and then I'd wake him up and say, I can go to sleep now because I needed to tell someone something, because it was so overwhelming. The way that I actually got into some acceptance of it was that it became evident to me that the evidence was real. People would say to me, that did happen. That's exactly what our last conversation was. How could you know that? And I'd be thinking, how could I know that? So the more real it became, the more I accepted it. And to answer the question about why we go through the things we go through, I think was
Yeah, it was really about the trauma and the grief.
Right. And how to get through it. I learned that pain was my greatest motivator for change. So pain and joy are equal in value. They both teach us something. And in fact, I learn more from the pain because I want out. So I'll do anything to learn how to get out of it. Do I feel that pain is part of our journey here? 100%. Do I feel that we plan that? 100%. Do I feel we have free will of how we'll look at it and what we'll do with it? 100%. Now that might sound contradictory, but it's not. What they showed me is that we go through experiences. So it looks like this. If you plan to be married, you'll be married. You might be 98, but you'll be married. Who you marry, how long you're married, the kind of marriage you have is free. So you have doors in front of you. And people tell me the doors are closed. I don't know what to do. And I say, they're doors, open them. It's that simple. And when you open a door, you find that experience teaches you one thing. And you might go, I don't like this. I'm going to go to the other door. You open the other door. This feels about right to me. I'm going to let this teach me.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And that way, in that marriage, our soul expands because without choices, there is no expansion. And every door we open and every choice we make creates more expansion to our soul. And that's what they taught me.
In your experience, do you believe that we call in as we're planning our soul's journey in this human form? Do you believe that we also invite a certain number of grief opportunities or pain opportunities as well? Can you talk about that for just a second?
I know that I hear a lot that people tell, like parents who lose their children, especially to dying by suicide, that this was their karmic event and they made this decision together. I think that's the furthest thing from the truth. I believe that they are going to learn about grief. The kind of intensity of grief that they're going to learn about has to do with the free will of the world. So my path has tremendous amount of suicide in it. That's the truth. And I know that maybe I wanted to learn about what that felt like to lose someone that way. I can't tell you for sure. How that unfolded was not my planned event. And I really believe that.
And you would say too, in the case of one of your brothers, let's say, that wasn't necessarily part of their planned event.
No, I don't. And I get a lot of flack from this, but I can't say it any other way. Maybe I was going to learn about suicide through my work. Maybe I was going to have a lot of clients that had that happen. Maybe that was the way it was going to happen. I believe we have free will. And I believe that drugs and alcohol were not what they planned for us here. And I believe that us killing ourselves is not what they planned for us here. Do we have exit points? Yes. So why did it have to be that one? That was a choice. And I do say this, and I know right now the buzz is committed suicide is such a terrible thing to say because committed means crime. No, it doesn't. I commit to my marriage. I commit to my children. I commit to my animals. I commit to my journey. I commit to a lot of things. That's one meaning of it is crime. And I believe in following the lead of the person that's speaking about it. So all of the therapists that are out there saying right now, it is wrong. You have to say unalived themselves or whatever it is they want them to say. It's the new thing.
Oh.
I feel very insulted by that because I am a survivor of 5 suicides, 3 of which were in my immediate family. If I say committed suicide, that's because that's what's comfortable to me. Follow the lead of the person. So if
Yes.
a person comes to me and says, my daughter unalived herself, I'm going to say, I see that your daughter unalived herself. Or my daughter died by suicide. I say, your daughter died by suicide. I follow the lead because we have been judged so immensely and intensely, and we judge ourselves for having all of this loss. We don't need more judgment on how we speak of it. So I do want to say that be careful what you teach people out there. You may believe you're doing the right thing, but please follow the lead of the person that has actually experienced it.
That's a really good point. Just in what you were saying before, I think a lot of people just wonder, did I sign up for this? I hear that all the time. Did I actually sign up for this? And I don't think that's true either. I think we came here to have experience, like you were saying before, and look at the profound teacher now that you are because of the grief that you've been through, right? And whether that came through suicide or multiple other ways, it was the intensity of that experience that allowed you to become that experiencer, right? So you could relate to other people. So,
right. And I think that I watch parents when they're told that their children made a pact with them and this was a planned event for their karmic growth. I watch their faces and the pain and agony. I would never want my child to die that way and make that plan. I'd be a monster. Yeah, maybe the spirit world loves us. They don't want us to go through something so horrendous. Yes, we have to learn about death and grief. We're learning about it our whole journey from the moment we're born. We grieve coming out of the womb. And so our grief begins.
That's true.
And it never ends. We grieve when our mom takes our bottle away. And yes, there's small griefs. When people say to me, I have no touchstone to understand how to grieve, I say, oh, but you do. You've been grieving your whole life. And even though there's small griefs, they have led you to this and to understand this. So let's tap on that. Let's go into that. Or they'll call me and say, I'm frozen. I can't get out of bed. And I'll say, you don't have to today. What I want you to do, can you move your foot out from under the covers? Oh, I can do that, Susan. Good. That's your next right step. Call me in 15 minutes. And they call me again. And I'll say, can you move your leg out from under the covers? I can do that. Good. Call me in 15 minutes. That's your next right step. And I do that until they're standing. And I do that until they're walking into the shower. What you find is you just have to take the next right step to heal. And I know this from my own experience.
exactly.
Because when they first pass, anyone we love, the hustle and bustle keeps you moving. Your adrenaline's going. You're lacking your denial, which is what you need, which is given to us. Thank you, God, was given to us in order to get through that first stage of the funerals and whatever it is we're doing, celebrations of life. But then when that's over and everything starts to fade, all the friends are gone and the family goes home. It's just us and the reality. So we want to move them through that. And does it sound depressing? Yes. Does it sound like there's a way out? Yes. So there is a positive to these changes and these things that we need to do.
You use the term exit points. And for some people listening, they may not have heard that term before. Can you explain what you meant by that?
So I was suicidal till I was 36 years old, almost probably closer to 38, but it's in my book. I'm not ashamed of it. I didn't like being on this planet. I didn't understand, but I knew I had to hold on. And that's what I want to tell people who want out. Hold on, because everything changes. Emotions they're up and down and up and down. They change. Things change. Everything changes. Give it a minute. and you'll find that you may feel differently. And we think we're stuck in that feeling forever. We're just trying to escape the feeling, the pain. And this is the thing about suicide. The pain doesn't go away. It simply is transferred to the people who are alive, people you love, the people you want to love and take care of. So you have to think about that before you make those choices. And I want to say that it's so important. But for me, everything I did was covered in this feeling of, I hate it here. I don't like it here. I'm in pain. All these things are happening. I'm suffering. And I just kept having to tell myself there's a new happening going on. And I'm growing from this and I'm making changes from this. So I could have very easily had that exit point. Every single day, I had a brain tumor. When I had my surgery, I remember having an experience where I had the chance to take that exit point, but I didn't. I knew my husband and children needed me. I actually woke up from my surgery. I find this so funny. And it was dark. And I know it's not black there, but I thought maybe I'm in the tunnel. And I said out loud, "Oh my God, am I dead?" And my girlfriend, who I didn't know was in the corner in the dark, said, "I certainly effing hope not, because if you are, it means I am." And I busted up laughing, and it just brought me into the now. We have choices, and I do believe we may have more than 3 exit points.
Do you think when you were 4.5, when you had that experience, do you think that was potentially an exit point?
Oh, yeah.
I do. Someone else asked me if I was meant to come back. I have to say I was, because I did.
Yeah.
But I do think it was an exit point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it wasn't time.
Exactly.
For me.
I think that's such a great example.
So, Susan, for people who are listening who may feel in pain themselves, who are going through grief, I love the phrase in your book when you say we can use grief to transform our pain into our biggest power. How did that work for you, and how can that help others who might be also navigating their grief?
Think about how empowered you feel and how powerful you feel when you get through something. If you're a painter and you finish the painting, how empowered you feel and how the feelings you have inside. That happens to people with grief. And even though the grief doesn't leave, they recognize the power of the human spirit, the power of the soul. We're not just souls having a human experience, we're humans having a soul experience. So we have to blend those two. We have to recognize that. And when we do, the power of our soul to survive anything and everything is where the empowerment comes from. And when you get to that point that you recognize, I'm not just surviving, but I'm laughing, I'm dancing, I'm thriving, I'm loving, I'm eating, I'm doing life again. How is that possible? Because a year ago, 2, 3 years ago, I didn't think I'd ever breathe again. That's the power of the human spirit.
Beautiful.
And it comes naturally to us because we have a soul that is never damaged. Yes, it feels the wound, but it is never damaged. So I want people to know that, because if it was damaged and yours was damaged and mine was damaged, there'd be nowhere to go. You can go inward into that soul source. Your soul is the divine vine to the divine. If you take a leaf and put it in your hand, and it's just a leaf, right? It doesn't mean it's not special, but it's just a leaf. But if you hold it up to the light, it's full of veins. It's a vine to the divine. It's a vine to lifeblood. That is your soul connected to the spirit world. It is filled with vines, filling you at all times with answers and safety and love and the mechanisms you need to heal. And so it is always there for you. And it steps in once you get through the traumatic part, the overwhelming part. It is there the whole time, but it steps in then because you allow it in to help you get to the other side. That's very empowering.
And you're talking about souls. You say there are no evil souls. And some people may be surprised by that.
First of all, they created it and they're the lifeblood, and they'd have to be evil to pump evil into our souls. That's number one. Number two, evil is in the minds of mankind and humankind. Evil is our experiences that we choose here. It is what we choose to do with it. There's brokenness in the heart. There's broken hearts. They're so powerful that you can die from one. Think how powerful that is. There are broken spirits. Spirit is the breath of life. Our spirit comes in when we take that breath. Our soul is already there, but our spirit is the breath of life.
Ooh, I love that differentiator.
And the mind is always broken because we're dysfunctional and we live in a dysfunctional world. But the soul is not. So evil seats in the mind and in that breath of life, possibly. And I believe evil actually comes from a broken brain. That's what I believe. So I worked with sociopathy, I worked with narcissism, and I worked with psychopaths as a counselor. And I can tell you that the evil was not in their soul. It was in their minds. They have cut off from their soul source. Their minds have shut it off. It's there, but they can't reach it. There is no integration, where a person who thinks bad thoughts is integrated with their souls and they go, oh, I feel so bad. And so that's the difference. But the soul, when it crosses over, has to face, unfortunately, what the brokenness did. We step into that and we have to look at it, but it's not a punishment. It's something we choose because we want to understand our choices so that we don't repeat them. So we do see it, and it goes by very fleeting. It's like moments. It's like a shower that washes over us. And I think that's what they mean by the cleansing, by the way. But it's a shower that washes over us to cleanse us. And we remember every harm. Our journey goes through us. Do we suffer? No, it is to say, ooh, I wish I would have done that differently. And I can on my next incarnation. Don't want that to happen. Now, I still believe that the brain is broken. We can make choices. A psychopath can decide not to kill. A sociopath can decide not to cause total damage to the people that love them. They may not care about love, but they can learn. A narcissist can learn how not to respond to their narcissism. And I will tell you, they do.
Wow.
I know people who are complete narcissists that go to therapy their whole lives and they still feel like reacting like a narcissist, but they don't react. They learn how to take a different action. Now, the psychopath doesn't learn that, but they don't all kill. They don't all need to. And some of them don't want to. They may feel the need to and want to, but they don't want to outwardly. So they learn not to by getting help.
Another thing, I've just never looked at it that way before. That's really mind-blowing.
They still think about it.
Do you think something causes from a psychopath perspective? Do you think that they were born that way?
I think psychopaths were born. I believe sociopaths were partially born and created by whatever happened in their life. And narcissism is a creation of their journey. I think they have a propensity for it because I had a very hard journey and I didn't become a narcissist. So I think they have a propensity for it. There's something missing in the brain. There's something not quite there that connects them to the soul. I'm so connected to my soul that I couldn't possibly cause harm and be happy with it. If you are a narcissist, a sociopath, or a psychopath, the why doesn't really matter. It's the how and the what at that point. If you want to do it differently, you have to figure out what is going on with me, what are these thoughts I'm having, and how do I change them at the moment? And if you can do that, you're going to not take the action. So the goal of teaching someone who has these things is to try to get them not to take the action. Does it always work? No, it does not. That's why we have them out there killing and causing harm to children and so on, because it doesn't always work. But if they truly desire, which some of them do, I've seen it.
Wow.
They get therapy, they continue therapy, they make shifts, they don't change, but they change their choices. Remember the doors, the free will. They can open the door and go murder someone, or they can open the door that says, I'm going to call my therapist right now because I want to murder someone.
Can you talk about what soul contracts are, in your opinion?
A soul contract is something that you pre-plan to experience here in some form that has free will involved so that you can open different doors to learn different ways what that looks like. Because there's nothing that I've ever done that I've learned only one way. I can change that at any moment. I can be on the phone with someone and be angry. Like maybe I'm on the phone with my kid and I'm having an argument. At any moment, I can say, pause. I am reacting instead of taking proper, appropriate action. I can pause and say to my child, I don't like what's happening here. We're going down a wrong road. I'm judging. I'm reacting. Can we start over? So a contract might be, again, I have a contract to have a child. The age I'm at when I have the child, right? Who I have the child with, et cetera, might be my free will choices. I'm going to be real here. I may want one, but at 19, I'm not ready and I have an abortion. That's a free will choice. Now, does that child feel that? No, that child already knew it wasn't going to walk this planet. So the child that came into you, they know the beginning, the middle, and the end. They already know they're not going to walk the planet with you, but you don't know that. So you're opening up a door and making a choice. So see how free will together mixes and also the planned event?
Yeah. Wow. And I go to your visual, like what you saw in your near-death experience, and you saw those tablets coming at whomever. That's what I picture. Do you want that? Do you want that? And then when you talk about soul family, those are people that, would you say we have agreements with to come in, and you may or may not have certain relationships with them?
Yes. So a soul family is one of the vines. Remember, I said there are vines. Soul family is one of those vines into our soul. So we have a soul tie with them. People always talk about soulmates, and I go, you might want to think twice about that, because a soulmate teaches you your hardest lessons. Think about the soulmates you've had where you just, ooh, man, they're painful, because we're meant to learn lessons from them. But the soul tie is our soul family. That has a lifeblood that never leaves.
You talk so much about intuition and what that means and how that really is the gateway into understanding while we're here. If you are interested in learning more about mediumship, it all really starts with intuition. And I think everybody can understand that at that level. And that's even just starting there for people to even know how to tune into that is a huge tool to give to people.
I think everybody needs to understand the difference between fear and intuition. It's the hardest thing we do. Is that my fear, or am I intuitively getting? And just to shorten it for just 1 second, fear is dark. Fear is frightening. Fear is ugly. Fear tells you you're in trouble when you don't need to be. It's like somebody walks out of their house and they stand on their porch and you go, he's here for me. And you start running and he's still standing on his porch, or somebody's following behind you and you take off. That is good fear. Illusory fear is, I just got this feeling. Oh my God, what if it's real? What if is your fear-based. Projection is fear. Okay. Being in the now is intuition. Right now, you get a hit. Ooh, that person isn't safe. Take action on it. Your fear will change your mind. It'll actually tell you that he is safe or she is safe when they're not, because your mind gets in the way. So you go by that initial hit. Intuition comes in smooth and easy. Fear comes in dark and heavy.
That is so good. I can't wait actually to even share that with my daughter, who has major anxiety and can't sometimes tell the difference. That was really helpful.
That was a real takeaway for me in the book, because a lot of people prevent that. They're like, what does your intuition tell you? But then their head immediately clicks in with the fear, like, but you better not do that.
Did you hear your starting of your sentence? What if? What does your intuition tell you? That's what I'm talking about. It's a knowing. It is not a what if or what does or what do you think? That's your brain. The knowing is, boom, there it is.
Yes.
And it's almost like a boom, but it's gentle and soft and easy. And it's a knowing. Intuition is a knowing. I know I cannot get in my car right now. I know that person is not healthy for me. Now, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to listen and back away and pause? Because you're not judging, you're in discernment. Or am I going to actually jump into my head and convince myself that I'm wrong? Which am I going to choose?
We've been talking about some of the concepts that are in your book. And what everyone should know is throughout your book, you have these exercises and questions for the person reading to really start to investigate their own journey and their own beliefs and how people can apply so much of what you have learned to their lives so that they can have this more fulfilling journey. And when we say fulfill some of these concepts that they came here to achieve in this lifetime. And as someone who actually has been a seeker for quite some time, I still, even though some of these concepts are familiar to me, those exercises I feel have been very helpful in my own life because it's obviously coming to me at the right time. Do you have one exercise that you would be able to share with people that are listening right now?
My goal is to get people to have affirmation work. Self-love is the true soul purpose when you get down to the bottom line. Knowledge and self-love. Those are the two most important soul purposes. So yes, our life purpose guides us to that, which is getting married, having children, all these other things we do, buying homes, marrying people, those kinds of things. And then you have your soul purpose. And that's to learn to be in self-care, self-love, and have knowledge about who you are. And so affirmations help you get there, to understand the value of you. I will tell you that when I felt that pure love coming towards me, I was affirmed, and there is nothing more powerful than that. And when you can wake up in the morning and say, I have value, I am worthy, I am lovable, I'm capable, I'm enough. When you start working those tools, I call all of those questions a toolbox. And it's They're tools when you work them to fill your box. So when something happens, this is how it works for me. Something happens. I picture a toolbox. I start throwing the tools out. That won't work. That won't work. Well, there it is. And I grab that tool and I'll use it, because I tell people, if I give you a broken screwdriver and every time you walk past a light switch, it shocks you, and you take that screwdriver out of your toolbox and you try to get that to not shock you, it's going to keep shocking you over and over because you have a broken tool. So the whole goal of those questions and those exercises is to give you tools, the most important one being self-love. So I love the one that says, I feel, I am, I experience. And this is later on in the book when you've done all the other work. I wish, I have dreams of, I hope. These are powerful things to know, because we just say, oh, I wish this, and then it's gone. Everything's fleeting that goes through us. But when you write that down on paper and you recognize, here it is in front of me. This is what my dream is for my journey and for my soul. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you're important enough. Those listening and watching know you're important enough to have that recorded, however that is for you. If you're writing it down or wherever you save that, take the time to do it. It's important for your soul.
Yes. Someone told me they read through the book and went back into the exercises, and it was wonderful for them. I almost did it that way, but I thought, no, when they go to do the exercises, they won't know where to go. So that's why I did it the way I did it. But if you read through the book and go back, it's really helpful. I think that understanding what those exercises mean and why they're so important to apply to your journey comes with doing them. That's why I have integration moments before that, because it makes you think before you step into those exercises.
And they're very simple. They don't take a lot of time. They're very insightful. It's a beautiful book, Susan. So much information in it. But it was a really painful journey for you to go through all those experiences again, for you to revisit all that. So why did you write this book, and what were you hoping that the takeaway would be for the reader?
I wrote the book because I knew this message needed to be out, and Spirit told me. When I heard you have to write your book now, it's time, I said, are you crazy? I'm not a writer. And they said, it's time. And I said, I'm not a writer. Hay House says to me now, you are now. So interesting. My goal was to reach people with truth, spiritual truth, the spirit world's truth that I saw. And that doesn't make me right. I honor everyone's belief system. I truly do. But I just know what they wanted me to say. And I listened to them the whole time I was writing it. It was so important to me to hear what they wanted everyone to hear. I wrote it because I know how broken this journey takes us to the breaking point. I wrote it because I know that some people feel like they don't want to be here. I wrote it because I knew there were mothers out there suffering. I wrote it because grief is so prominent in our journey. I wrote it because we fear death, and I wanted people not to have to fear it. It's just like birth. I have to say this, birth and leaving this planet are exactly the same. You fight coming out of the womb. You're scared. You don't know what's happening. You pop out and you're grabbed and it's cold and you're prodded and you're poked. And then you get wrapped in a blanket of love and you're set into your mother's arms and you feel wonderful and beautiful and safe and secure. Death is the same way. You're fighting it. You're scared. You don't like the unknown. You don't know where you're going. You get there. They wrap you in a blanket of love and you know right where you are and you know you're safe. And I wanted people to know this and really hear the details of that.
I love the way you put that, and the way that your book takes people on a journey. And you make it all comfortable. You give people such knowledge about what feels so unknown. And then also it gives them knowledge of themselves ultimately, which really every person watching or listening, we can't recommend this book enough. It's important. Karen and I are always talking about this beginner seeker journey, someone who's just opened the door. They may not even realize they're opening the door, but they're at a crossroads in their life for whatever reason. And they're starting to just wonder, what else is there? Why are they here? We believe from reading your book, you give them the tools by sharing and being vulnerable about your own journey so far. And then also giving them these exercises and questions for them to then start to investigate themselves and why they are here. Because we know we're all here on purpose. We all chose to be here to evolve as souls. So what you've done is so important.
Thank you. And I think the person that does understand it all, I really believe in honoring and looking at and learning from other perspectives. And we are never done until we're gone. And then we're not done.
And I was going to say, and then we're not done.
And many people who are on their spiritual quest, like my students who have been doing this a long time, they'll literally say to me, I never thought to do this. I never really looked at it that way. I never, even though they're in a room with me and I'm talking about it, you forget it goes through you.
It's an incredible book. And thank you for taking the journey, Susan. We know that it was hard, but it's going to help so many people, inspire so many people to seek more, to learn more, really.
And how can people work with you? In addition to getting the book,
I'm still doing private readings, which I don't know how long I'll be able to do that. I do teach also. They go to susangrau.com, press the schedule now tab, and it's there for them. And Susan Grau Official shares everything. So if I have discounts going on, and I do a lot of free, I want to say this because people go there and they go, oh my gosh, I can't afford this. I do a lot of free work. I only have a certain amount of hours I can actually work to support myself. So my free work is with mothers who lose children. I do a lot of events for that. I don't charge. I go away for 4 and 5 days. I pay for it myself. Just know that, yes, I have to charge for my gift in order to offer it to the public, but I'm always there to work with people.
Thank you for all that you're doing. And just a reminder, the name of the book is Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons, Wisdom from the Spirit World on Living, Dying, and the In-Between. You can find that on Susan's website or wherever you buy your books. And we're just so grateful to be connected to you, Susan.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to say, I am doing the Grove in Los Angeles on October 26th. So I hope people watch my social media to do that with me. And if you love the book, please review. It means so much that because other people then say, oh, this book is liked. I'm going to get it. And I want it to get out there.
We're adding that to our list. We're doing that.
Yeah, writing that down.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. I love you guys.